Let's go first to London. Andrew Eborn, broadcaster and barrister. Andrew, welcome. What's on your mind?
George, it's a real pleasure to join you. And I have to say that your last guest, I find it extraordinary that Kamala, and that's how you pronounce her name, she spent an absolute fortune in 2016, including dragging out college students to tell everybody that her name is Kamala, because rather like the punctuation, she stopped Joe Biden. I find it extraordinary that his books were pulled out from Amazon. I also find it extraordinary. I was one of the very first to mention about the 25th Amendment, which, as you say, is the right to replace the president when he's incapable of doing the job. And the question I have, which is a wider question, is if he's incapable of running now, why is he still capable of running the country? And surely, and I thought this might be brought in earlier, they would have a look at that sort of side and say, well, he can't run the country, most important country, most powerful country in the world. If he's incapable, he should be replaced now. And then Kamala would instantly get the job. But what I wanted, George, I mean, you've been a victim yourself of media reports, and we're living in a very diseased information age, drowning, if you like, in a sea of misinformation and disinformation. And it was Mark Twain who said, well, if you don't read the newspapers, you're ill-informed, but if you read them, they're misinformed. What I wanted to talk to you about is basically what role do you think the media is going to play in this particular election? Because we've heard all sorts of strange reports, haven't we? Whether it's about Trump and the Russians, and basically last May, you'll remember, Councillor John Durham, he concluded that the FBI should never have launched a full investigation into the connection between Donald Trump's campaign and Russia during the 2016 election. By that stage, you know, tell a lie often enough, it becomes the truth. But a lot of people were influenced by that. So to what extent do you think that the media is going to play a role in this particular election?
Well, first of all, I have to say that was an outstanding contribution and a very important question. The truth is the media ecosphere, ecostructure in the United States is not all that it looks from here. For example, there is not one single national American newspaper. So it's not like other countries, smaller countries, more homogenic countries, where if you've got the support of the Sun or one of the other big papers in Britain, you're reaching people from Land's End to John O'Groats. That's not the case in the United States. And the viewing figures of the so-called mainstream media television channels is infinitesimal. I have a far bigger audience here and for the mother of all talk shows than any of the quite famous Rachel Maddow and so on these big channels in the United States. The audience for these channels and these programs, these political sofa programs and the rest, is very, very small. It's very influential. Everybody who is important in American politics watches these channels and is influenced by them and in turn influences them. But the mass of the voters are not much influenced at all by these mainstream media channels. Fox News was the success that it was. It's down a bit now since Tucker Carlson and others were sacked. But Fox News broke onto the scene and became a legend because it was not the Rachel Maddow's NBC, ABC, MSNBC, and so on, that alphabet soup of liberalism that is the American television industry. Fox was, of course, a right-wing, shock jock type of television channel, and it discovered that there are millions and millions of people out there who really wanted that kind of broadcast journalism. Third thing that needs to be taken into account, Andrew, is that most of America is what they call flyover country. You've got the East Coast liberals and you've got the West Coast liberals. But everybody in between, that most of these liberals on either side of the subcontinent never actually meet, they merely fly over them from one coast to the other. These are the American heartlands. This is the place where the election will be won. And bear in mind also fourthly, that it's not a direct election. It's an electoral college. So if you win the election in, I don't know, Missouri, there might not be many people in Missouri, but you've got the electoral college votes from Missouri in your presidential column. And it's disproportionate. As you very well know, you can win the American presidency with a minority of the votes. Doesn't happen often, but it has happened. Happened to Donald Trump, I think, in 2016, if we can believe the results, that is. So for all these reasons, I would answer you thus. The American media will try everything that they can to influence the election result, but that they will not succeed. I'm with Caleb Maupin. I think that Trump will win the presidency probably quite easily, unless they murder him between now and November, which don't rule out. And I suppose my last point, if I may, we're now in the social media age, aren't we? The biggest social media platform is Twitter. The owner is Elon Musk, and Elon Musk has given scores of millions of dollars to Donald Trump's re-election campaign. So all in all, I'd say the liberal media, and they are overwhelmingly liberal, the New York Times, MSNBC, the Los Angeles papers, and so on, they're overwhelming liberal and Democratic Party supporting papers. They'll try to do everything that they can, but they will fail. Thanks, Andrew. I'm George Galloway. This is Have It Out with Galloway. Let's go to London, where Andrew Eborn, barrister and broadcaster, has a question. Andrew, welcome.
George, it's always a pleasure to join you. I always love hearing your opinions. I've got three interrelated questions to do with Trump. He's got 74 million votes. And I wonder what the impact's going to be on the relationship, the special relationship between the UK and the US, especially given David Lammy's previous comment calling Trump a woman-hating, neo-Nazi-sympathising sociopath. He's sort of basically retracted a bit from then. And you might remember that in 2016, J.D. Vance called Trump American Hitler, and he had that road to Damascus moment. Also, interestingly, on climate, COP29 is just starting. They're all flew in, burning all sorts of air miles and so on and so forth. Trump, in his campaign, called everything a climate hoax. And so is he going to be the wrecking ball for that? And finally, I want to talk about Elon Musk. Elon Musk, the great bromance that there's been between Trump and Elon. And I have Errol Musk, Elon's father, on my show, the Andrew Eborn Show, every day, and we unpack those sort of issues. Basically, he secured the election for Trump. He gave him X. He basically used that platform to help support him accordingly. And he's been with him at Mar-a-Lago, being on the phone to Zelensky and various other things. What is the quid pro quo for Elon Musk in all of this? Looking forward to your
What a
views,
wonderful, wonderful question, and so eloquently expressed. I can't do justice to all three components just because of time. But there's no doubt that Elon Musk's star is in the ascendant. It's flown as high as one of his rocket ships. What the quid pro quo is, my guess is Musk doesn't need money, so it isn't about money, it's about power and influence. If Trump means what he says about the First Amendment, about freedom of speech, about freedom of the internet, then undoubtedly Musk will gain even more audience and influence on that front. On the Labour government having put Britain in a very disadvantageous place vis-a-vis the new American president, you put it as eloquently as I could. the Labour government now looks completely isolated from the country it always claims is its special relationship. And Starmer is doubling down. He's in France right now, intriguing with Macron as to how they can wreck Donald Trump's intention to bring about peace in the Ukraine. Talk about reinforcing failure. They will fail again in trying to dissuade Trump from that and further isolate themselves and worse, isolate Britain. And we may pay a high price in terms of loss of influence, that's obvious, but also in tariffs that Trump may very well bring against important British exports to the United States. I think that Starmer's a disaster for the people of Britain, and he just proved it all over again. And it wasn't just David Lammy, Big Eddie Amin, as I call him. It was Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, she of little intellect or wit, who insulted Trump in just as lurid terms, and even more recently. And Starmer's whole Labour Party sent 100 of Starmer's finest election campaigners to the United States, officially from Labour, to try and secure the victory for Kamala Harris. Well, that didn't go very well, and they'll pay a price for that. My reading of Trump, I've never met him, but I know people who know him well. My reading of Trump is he's a very vindictive guy. He's a very unforgiving guy. He doesn't forgive, he doesn't forget. And I think the British government is going to find that. As to the wrecking ball, well, I won't say that climate change is a hoax, but the catastrophism of liberal and centrist political operators and the media that goes along with them are undoubtedly indulging in catastrophizing, in trying to make us believe that in 5 years' time the world will burn up and come to an end. Sure, there's climate change. There's always climate change. There was climate change before there were humans on the planet. There was an ice age. There was ages of droughts. There were ages of floods. The climate has always changed. And I'm all for looking after the environment. I'm all for cleaning up the plastics and trying to live healthily and keep the world going in a natural way. But the idea that by impoverishing the mass of the people, the workers, by forcing the workers out of their cars onto their bicycles, the forcing of the workers to scrap their boilers, not to harvest the oil in the North Sea, this is all nonsense. And as you rightly point out, they don't even practice what they preach. Why have they flown all the way to the COP? They could have done it by Zoom, which is exactly what you and I are doing right now. Thanks for joining us on Have It Out with Galloway. Come back next week at the same time, same place, if you've enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.